Dad, you've said before you're not a big fan of home shows. Are Lincoln Logs Abraham Lincoln Logs?
There you go. Could be.
Don't have the ability to get a permit because they don't have a builder's license.
Don't even have a builder's license?
How does that even happen?
Easier said than done.
Hey everybody, I'm Gary,
And I'm Graham.
And I'm Cooper.
and we're the Integrity
Good
guys.
We're recording our podcast today, and we've got a special guest. It's the OG Cooper, my son, in studio. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I'm excited.
What have you been up to?
Oh, just fixing the world. No, I'm kidding. I'm currently in school right now, home on spring break, so this is a lot of fun for me, and I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, proud dad moment, having both of my sons here at the same time. And so, Coop, would you mind reading some headlines off for us today?
I'm super excited. Let's get right into it. So it looks like a story came out recently about a homeowner in San Antonio who built a 7 to 9 foot fence in their front yard. The issue is that local code only allows 3-foot fences in their front yards, so neighbors actually complained about it and the city had to get involved. It looks like eventually it escalated into fines and lawsuits and even ended up being featured in the HBO docuseries about neighborhood conflicts. That's insane.
Dad, why do cities have rules about fence height?
Well, that is a great question. So there's a lot of rules and regulations, especially about fences, because every single homeowner is concerned about their views, their vantages, and the height of a fence can be very restrictive. Do you remember we put a fence in front of our pole barn?
I do remember that.
And do you remember that our neighbors didn't love it?
Yeah,
But do you remember that we had a permit and so there was nothing they could do?
indeed.
Funny story, we put up a 6-foot privacy fence because we wanted to improve and conceal our property, and our neighbors didn't absolutely love it, and they told the city about their thoughts on it.
Well, that's okay.
It is okay.
It's our house, our rules.
Since we contacted the city, found out what was allowed, and built it to those standards, there was nothing that could be done. But later they changed the rules and a 6-foot fence was no longer allowed. Today, if that same fence were installed, it would only be allowed to be 3 foot tall.
What would happen if you went over what was allowed?
So if the work doesn't meet the standard, you have to start over, tear it all down, get rid of all that work, and pay more money.
Jeez.
We don't want that for any customers.
Oh, no. Building codes exist for a reason, and it's a good thing that there are standards and codes that everyone follows so that no one encroaches on anyone else's space or property. If you're watching and wondering what a project like this would cost in your home, here in southeastern Michigan, we built something to help you with that. One of the hardest parts about remodeling is not knowing what your real investment will look like until you're deep into the process. Most homeowners are just guessing. Most online estimates are unrealistic. Most projects involve systems homeowners don't initially see. So we created a full remodel calculator specifically for southeastern Michigan homes. This helps you understand what a refresh versus remodel versus full conversion really costs, how kitchens, roofing, structural, and mechanical systems affect budget, what type of investment makes sense for your homing goals. This is not a quote tool. It's an education tool. It helps you understand scope before you ever talk to a contractor. Use it before starting your project so you can plan with clarity instead of guessing, because this stage is where planning starts turning into reality.
So homeowners should make sure that they check that before they get a fence installed.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the most common causes for litigation between homeowners are disputes about property lines. And so fences are one of the most argued over product that we offer. This is a perfect example of why you hire a professional contractor. We're responsible for doing all the legwork, verifying all the codes, ensuring that the property lines and boundaries are honored, and then no one can ever tell us we have to remove a new fence that we just installed.
So jumping into our second headline, homeowner came across and discovered their entire driveway had been freshly paved. The problem is they never hired anyone to do it. It appears a contractor may have paved the wrong driveway by mistake. Oh my goodness.
You guys, just the other day, I was talking to a homeowner about their driveway. We were talking about where we would pave up to, and the lady pointed at an apple tree 100 feet away, and she goes, "That's my property line." Now, this apple tree was at least 3 feet wide. It was huge. And so this tree may have grown in one direction over the years since it was planted. And she never had a survey done to determine where the property line actually is.
A lot of people, I think, use trees as references or telephone poles for survey lines.
I think someone told us that our property extended to halfway over the creek.
Wow, that would be nice.
Dad, how does someone pave the wrong driveway?
Graham, it would be really easy for an ordinary company who doesn't follow all the rules to make that major mistake. Some homes don't have their address posted, and so a crew could just show up and make the mistake of starting to work on the wrong house. But most of the time, it's because homeowners don't realize how important it is to have your property survey. A boundary survey will tell you exactly where your property starts and ends, the distance from the old driveway or the old sidewalk, the old shed or garage, maybe. And they cite monuments, which are pieces of steel placed in the ground. That's the official way of knowing where your property ends. It's expensive to have a surveyor out, a professional who just takes measurements and places boundary markers. But without that, it would be really easy to pave your neighbor's property on accident.
A homeowner replaced a concrete wall that had existed along a boundary line for over 30 years. The neighbor watched the project happen and even suggested design changes. But after the project was finished, the neighbor hired a lawyer claiming the wall encroaches about 1 foot onto their property and demanded it to be removed.
Oh my gosh.
Dad, if you're building near a property line, how do you know where the line actually is?
So when you buy a home, Graham, and you get a mortgage, there's often a piece of paper in there called a mortgage survey. And in that mortgage survey, it maps out points of reference to let you know where your property line ends. Then, when a professional company asks for a building permit and permission to build, they're supposed to produce all the specific details up front. That's one of the important parts that the city building department plays in a building project. See, because they have to make sure that they don't approve a plan which has a building being done outside of their property line. A couple months ago, we were doing a project and two neighbors were not happy with each other, and they had brought a surveyor out to determine what the property line was. And it turns out that the homeowner had their well on the neighbor's property.
How does that even happen?
See, that's what I want to know.
Like, is that allowed?
Today, that is not allowed.
Wow.
That's outrageous.
And that was right in our backyard here in Lake Orion.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
That homeowner, when they realized what was going on, they called their attorney and they called the state of Michigan and they called the city. They called all kinds of people because they didn't want the neighbors using their property for their well anymore.
Makes sense to me.
A little bit crazy.
Problem is, Graham, turns out you can't just move the well over 8 feet. It's not that easy.
Yeah, you sort of have to break it or cover it up and then like dig it in a whole another spot. The neighbors aren't gonna like an empty hole just and then they fall in it and then they go to their doom.
You don't want that.
I'm curious. How do you dig a new well?
Yeah.
Guys, would you believe that the average depth of a well dig is over 100 feet?
No way. That's really deep.
You need a real
Over-
big drill bit.
Over
let's say.
100 feet?
Talk about boring.
Yeah.
That has to be a very, very, very strong pickaxe if that's gonna work.
Talking Minecraft over here.
Yeah,
Oh
sort
my
of.
gosh,
Does
Graham.
Minecraft have real? Because pickaxes are real.
Yep, that's true.
I can't emphasize the importance enough of proper planning. Every homeowner should have a property survey because that document will protect you for all your future building projects. It'll clear the air if you and your neighbor don't agree which side of the tree line is theirs. And ultimately, it helps everyone have clarity.
Save some arguments, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And this is kind of funny, you guys. We did a big fence project in Detroit last year, and there were fences on all 3 sides of the property line. Our customer always wants their fence installed properly, but sometimes doesn't understand why a survey is important. Now, you guys know it's a very competitive industry being in construction, and every customer is always looking for the best value. But we were really glad that we spent time to educate Jody, our wonderful client in Detroit, because she agreed to a survey, and because of that survey, we realized that not one of those 3 fences we replaced were actually on the property line.
Are you kidding?
Holy moly.
So imagine not getting one property line off with your new fence layout, but imagine getting all 3 of those lines installed incorrectly.
That is not a success.
Sounds like a nightmare.
It could be a nightmare for most companies out there in construction. Don't have the ability to get a permit because they don't have a builder's license.
Don't even have a builder's license?
Nope, it's actually pretty hard to get, you guys. And with that builder's license, you know what your dad is able to do? Work through all the confusion for all the homeowners we work with to figure out where the property lines actually are and where can we put our fences and gates and things.
Smart.
You wouldn't want to put your garage 2 foot over on the neighbor's yard.
That would not be very acceptable. That'd be a little bit too much space.
You speak the truth. So let's move on to the Novi Expo show. Coming up is the Novi Home Garden Show. It's one of the larger home improvement shows in southeastern Michigan. You'll see remodeling companies, landscapers, window companies, roofing companies, and many other vendors all in one place.
Dad, you've said before you're not a big fan of home shows.
Yeah, there are a lot of companies out there that love to do those shows. It's a great place for you and your family to go to check out stuff. We went there once and ended up with a swim spa, didn't we?
Yeah, I recall that.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that weekend, that's for sure.
No.
Still paying for that thing. But in all honesty, what I see at the trade shows, I see a lot of niche companies like window companies and roofing companies. And well, to be honest, there's a niche business for almost every type of home improvement you could ever ask for. A lot of homeowners actually hire their contractors that way. They hire an electrician to put in lighting, a plumber to put in toilets, and a tile guy to install their tiles.
Doesn't sound very efficient.
Yeah.
Well, you could say that again. So if you hired the plumber, the tile guy, and the electrician, you're the one on the hook for the design, for the scheduling, maybe for the permits, probably picking out all the materials. Who wants to do all that?
And you have to go to them at a home show? They don't even come to you?
And you've got to go find them.
Easier said than done, for sure.
Easier said than done. Well, that is one way that people can, of course, get their homes improved. But I guess this might be just a time for a short cute plug about how we do things differently. We like to handle the whole project from start to finish, making it a breeze for you to get quality remodeling done. And we can fix every room and every space on your home, inside and out, top to bottom, from the front to the back. What will you do with all your free time since you're not managing multiple contractors, getting multiple quotes, and coordinating and following up with all the different trades?
Well, maybe planning ahead or maybe taking a small break, and you can always do something like throw a frisbee.
You could play frisbee with your kid now that you won't have to manage multiple crews. That could be our tagline, you guys.
Or save the barber a trip from pulling out your own hair, I'm excited to talk about this next segment that we have, the Van Hoosen Farm Public Open House. There's a nice local event coming up in Rochester Hills Museum at the Van Hoosen Farm. They're hosting a public open house and tours where people can explore the historic farm and learn more about the area's history. Sounds really cool.
Oh, yeah. When you go to places like Van Horse Farm, what sounds out to you about the houses?
Well, that particular farmhouse was built with real log construction. And they do not build homes like they used to, my son. That home had large pieces of tree assembled so that they're stacked on top of each other. And that's how the whole entire building is constructed.
Like Lincoln Logs?
Like Lincoln Logs. That's actually a very good example.
Do you know what Lincoln Logs are, Graham?
I have no clue.
Oh my goodness. Timeless.
Are Lincoln Logs Abraham Lincoln Logs?
There you go. Could be.
That must be it. In all fairness, they build things a lot different than they used to. And building an entire home with logs is very difficult and inefficient.
Yeah, for sure.
We used to live across the street from a log house. You remember that?
I do not.
Okay, we'll have to show it to you next time we drive by.
For sure.
There aren't too many log homes in the area. We've worked on a few over the years, but most homes are built traditionally stick framed or engineered. But we love the historical value of that farmhouse. That home was built well over 100 years ago, that farmhouse was. Well, what we know is that there's probably asbestos and lead throughout there, don't we?
You probably haven't lived 100 years, have you?
Well, in home improvement years, I'm 102.
100 years is a very, very big age.
That's true. So actually, this is another moment I can take to just brag. If you're talking about historical build, throughout my career, I've had the good privilege of working on quite a few historical homes, and I've even received some recognition. One of the first homes in Detroit to have running water actually was a wonderful homeowner that hired us years ago, and we put a roof on that home. No other company was willing or able to tackle it because it was 3 stories high. The roof was steep like a church, and it had slate tile for the roofing.
They don't make roofs like that anymore.
Oh, thank heavens. That was a lot of work. But we had a lot of fun. Doing stuff like that is definitely our jam. And we helped that homeowner get their leaks resolved for life.
It's a lot of work, but it's our jam.
Yes, it is. Because of that project and all the experience we gained working with the historical board, working with the city, and all their special requirements, we found quite a few other historical jobs over the years. We've been able to help people get work done that they need and not break any of the laws because historical homes have special requirements. The reason for that is they want to preserve the historical value of the old home and not make it look like a brand new build.
Who's in charge of keeping those laws in place?
Yeah.
The Historical Society is a national registry, and they have very strict requirements, and they make it very difficult to maintain a historical home because they don't make things the way they used to. Let me give you an example. Someone has a porch, and the tile on their porch is cracked up. So they said, we'd like to replace it. So we went to the city and we let them know we planned on replacing their tile. Well, the city said it has to be the exact same material as what was placed there 120 years ago.
120? That's more than 100.
120 years ago, the tile they selected was over 1 inch thick.
That's thick tile.
That is
Some thick tile.
super thick tile. We finally found the product and had it manufactured here from Venezuela. That was an expensive delivery. But we were able to make it a success. Our homeowner's porch is safe again, and now they can worry about the rest of the homes on their property and all the other stuff that you have to deal with the house.
I know, right? What was the hardest part of your project?
The hardest part of that project was definitely finding the tile. Oh, one more thing. The Historical Society didn't just say, find a 1 inch tile. They said, get us a sample of the tile and bring it in and show it to us.
Yeah.
So we couldn't buy all 24 pieces from Venezuela. We had to start by buying a sample. 2 months later, that sample arrived. 1 month later, the Historical Society approved it. 3 months later, we got the tile. That's 180 days.
Wow.
That's a lot of years.
So the moral of the story is if you have a historical home and you need work done, you can reach out to MI Remodelers. We're happy to help, but it might take us a little while if you have 1 inch thick porch tiles.
How many houses do you think are left with that tile on them?
I'm exhausted just thinking about it.
Good to know. Good to know.
It's kind of a popular thing in historical areas.
Dad, what's the biggest mistake people make before hiring a contractor?
This is my favorite part that I wanted to talk about today. I want to talk about a few mistakes that homeowners make when choosing a contractor. First and foremost, license and insurance, not negotiable. These are very important elements that you must know. A builder's license is what gives us permission to build. With that license, we can pull permits, we can find out what's required, we can make sure the homeowner is well taken care of. If we didn't have a builder's license, we wouldn't be eligible to pull permit. That would mean that we wouldn't know if the products we install meet the code. And if it doesn't meet code, it shouldn't be installed on your home. Equally important is insurance. We spend a gobload of money every year on insurance. We have insurance for our workers. We have insurance against liability and property damage. We have insurance on our vehicles. We have all kinds of different insurances. That's a full-time job, by the way. The reason why we spend all this effort on maintaining insurance is to protect every homeowner and every employee and every contractor who's on the job. With the proper insurance, everyone's protected. If a situation happens and someone's hurt, workers' comp will cover their medical bills and loss of wages. General liability protects you in case someone damages your home. Whenever a window gets broken, it's always a Pella Bay window that costs more than a mortgage payment. With proper insurance, it would be replaced if it got damaged.
How do some companies get by without having the proper insurance or building licenses?
All I can say is that I believe 9 out of 10 construction companies in Michigan do not carry the required insurance and license. It's very difficult to get a builder's license. It's very expensive to maintain insurance. We have an office and a team who helps us stay current and stay organized and have all of our permits and all of our inspections. It's a lot of work. If it were easy, everyone would do it. So these are very essential things that homeowners probably get wrong the most. So I'm just going to say it again. Builder's license, proper insurance, and then what kind of company would start a project without a plan? No company I want to work with. For that reason, we believe that planning as the actual construction work that we do, making a plan, figuring out all the details, working through all of the different departments and having all the right inspections is the best way to ensure that the money you're spending for a remodeling project is money well spent.
This reminds me of the job in Harrison Township and all the planning in the backyard.
That was a lot of work.
You mind talking a little bit about the planning behind that job?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Yes, I remember the first day we spoke. One of my favorite clients, Shelly, I hope you're listening. Shelly said, Gary, I want, and then she listed every project, every product out there basically. She wanted decorative concrete, glowstone, composite decking, a huge honkin' porch, sod, soil, grade changes, a bar, brick pavers, some fence work, gutters, trim, soffit, roofing. I know I'm missing a few. It was quite a bit of work figuring everything out, deciding where we would put the concrete and where we would have the deck. They were on a canal, and it was real important for them that their home looked king-like. It was a one-story home surrounded by all two-story homes. So what did we do? We built a very special porch that was basically 2 stories on that one-story house. And all the neighbors thought they added a second floor.
I remember seeing renderings of it, seeing the plans of it before it was done.
Yeah, that's something that we can also mention real quick. Thank you. When we do a design for a homeowner, we can really help them envision what's being built before we lift a finger. Costly change orders happen when we don't do a great job planning and a homeowner requests for changes during the construction process. It's such a problem when we have to make a change that we would rather invest 5 times as much effort up front working through all the different options so that we could best provide our client with just exactly what they want, how they want it, up front, on time, and on budget.
Indeed, those are the 3 or 4 most important words. One of.
The biggest improvements we made with that design, our homeowner didn't realize that we were actually able to raise the backyard about 10 inches. By doing that, we subtracted 1 step that was required from their porch. And so this family was able to exit from their home and only step down 1 time onto the boat. And before there were 2 steps. And so there's more places that you could trip.
Absolutely right.
They were aging and they wanted to make it easier for them in the future to get in and out of their boat. And who could blame them? So, listen, everyone, if you have a question about your home, we would love for you to send it our way. Maybe we'll be able to answer it live on the show. And Graham, will you tell them how someone could reach us if they had a question or they wanted some repairs done to their home?
Call 888-544-7366. And don't forget to tell them Graham sent ya.